Hello, and welcome back to Improvement Roulette, where we take a business improvement tool, any type of business, and look at how they fit together. We give an example so that you can think about how to apply these tools for yourself. Now, today's example is absolutely essential to any business owner, anyone at home as well. It's just one of the most transformative tools that I use in my tool set. One of the first activities I tell every new process improvement person to use. I'm Amanda Zimmerman. I am a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, and I've been helping businesses all over the world make their processes better, safer, faster, and more efficient. Now, if you read in the comments or the post today, I'm going to talk about carpentry. So we are going to use the example of a carpenter shop. And the one that I'm thinking of, the last carpentry shop I was in, was actually at McMurdo Station, Antarctica. So below the Antarctic Circle, near the South Pole, right? That was the last carpentry shop I was in. So this is what I have in my mind when I'm giving my examples today. Now, we are talking all about waste. Downtime is the acronym that we are going to use to help us identify waste in our processes. Now, this can be absolutely as simple as you taking a sheet, we call it a waste walk or a Gemba walk, and you just take this sheet and maybe for a week or a couple of days, you go around and you write down each type of waste that you see. So let's talk about downtime. You may have also heard the phrase TIMWOODS. This is another way that you can reconfigure the letters so that you can remember each of these. Downtime, defects, overproduction, waiting, not using people well, motion, inventory, sorry, whoops. Now we have the alarm going off. Okay, well, let's say, okay, transportation, inventory, motion, excess processing. That's where I went wrong. I tried to spell down might instead of downtime. So defects, overproduction, waiting, not using people well, transportation, inventory, motion, and excess processing. Now let's give a quick example for you of each one of those. And like I said, if you want to go ahead and take a piece of paper and just think about over the week, just write down some examples, or as you're watching this, just write down some examples that you might see in your work. It's really just that simple. Then you have a list of things that you can actually work on that are not adding value to your work. So if we look at every little process, every step in our jobs, we can look at those and say, does this add value or not add value? And so for those things that are not adding value, which is sometimes the easier place to start, we can use this method. Now, the first I said was defects. So let's think in a carpentry shop. One of the things I think that we talk about is measure twice, cut once, right? Because otherwise you create a defect. You create maybe a piece of wood that's a little too short and you can't grow that back. Now, if you're in this carpentry shop in Antarctica and you don't measure twice and cut once, then you might have this issue where this piece of wood is not the right size. Now, in a place like that, it might be hard for you to replace that. It's expensive to replace it. It's also time that you spent on a piece of wood that you can't actually get back. You now have to do that same thing again, rework. So defects really, we see issues all down the line of our organization when we have defects occur. The next thing is overproduction. So producing more than is needed or before it is needed. Now, if we're in that little workshop, we might say, hey, I need a dresser. Excuse me, let's say somebody decides there's no work going on. They're like, hey, I'm just going to start building dressers when there's downtime. Now they have 10 dressers that they've started building that are just sitting out there. They have to manage those. They have to look after those. They have to put those in storage. They might have to do some kind of inventory activity. And maybe they find in a month or 2 months, or if we're in Antarctica, maybe they find that over the winter, they really need wood. And they used all the wood to make these dressers because this guy was bored, right? So that's not good. Then we have to take apart the dressers so that we can use that material again. So that's an example of overproduction. The next one is waiting. Waiting. We've all experienced this if you've gone to the grocery store, if you've gone to an airport, if you've just called maybe a company and sat on hold, you had to wait. So what we can do is we can look for any of those places that you have waiting. That's a great place to look for opportunities to improve. Now, if you're at the carpentry shop, you might see places where you have to wait. Maybe you have to wait for materials, right? So they only get maybe one or two, maybe once a year or every other year, they get an influx of materials. So they have to wait for those. Now, when they're waiting for those, they may have times where they don't have the materials they need. So you have the people, they're ready to work, but they don't have what they need to be able to work to use that skill. So that would be waiting, and you can see how expensive that starts to get in our organizations. Let's look at not using people well. Now, I used to always focus on the underutilization of talent, but I think that it's equally important that we look at under and overutilization of talent, because quite often we let people be a single point of failure. One person knows everything there is to know about your business. This is terrible, because that one person holds with them the ability to tank something or, have that work out or not work out. That's really, really a critical part of your business that you could lose or put at risk because you're overutilizing a person. Now, when these were originally identified or put together, this one, not using people well, or skills, as it is in TIMWOODS, this actually wasn't part of the original. I think that's definitely a flaw. I agree that it should be part of the wastes, because I see more than often, this is one that we really, really, as process improvement practitioners, can sometimes fall into, that we don't ask the people doing the work for your thoughts, your opinions. Is this going to work? Is this not going to work? Which means that we don't utilize all of that skill, all of that talent, all of that intelligence for our organization. Now, if we are with that carpenter, let's say we have this person down there that has tons of carpentry knowledge, but they go down and they get put into an apprenticeship spot. So instead of building those dressers, instead of doing maybe more elaborate things where we're building some buildings and making sure that everything works, the guy that's gone down there for 5 years, he's doing that. He doesn't really know carpentry that much, but he's been down there quite a bit. But this new guy that has a ton of knowledge is out there driving the forklift or walking around or handing out nails, right? So this would be an underutilization of that talent. Transportation. So this is the movement of materials. Now, in a place like Antarctica, you can see that that movement could be really far. The example I always think of this one is ordering a package. I've been ordering packages recently from this company called Universal Yums, which I love. I love this company that they give me like every month a nice little box from a different country. So I get to try those snacks from a different country. However, for whatever reason, they send it from New Jersey, which is fine. And for whatever reason, it goes to Minnesota. And it doesn't just go to like one place in Minnesota, it goes to several, and it stays there for a really long time. Then after 2 weeks, and it gets all shuffled through there, then it comes to me, right? I don't care as the consumer whether or not it bounces around Minnesota. I just want it to get to me as quickly as possible. Now, this is the same of that carpenter in Antarctica at his little carpentry shop. He doesn't care that the wood has to stop in San Diego, that it has to get inspected in New Zealand, that it has to go down and then get offloaded and then put in a sea train and then taken out of the sea train or the mill van and then getting taken over to the galley and then from the galley to his sea train. He doesn't care about any of that. He just wants that material to him as quickly as possible. Now, what about when he creates something that he has this finished good? Does that finished good go straight to the consumer, or does it bounce around? Does it go to the heliport? Does it sit there and wait? Does it go into some kind of storage facility and then wait, right? How can we get that out to the people that are going to use it as quickly as possible? Our next one is inventory. Inventory. So this is where, like, let's say we were building those dressers. Let's say we had a bunch of furniture that was built up because we had maybe a whole unit of rooms that we were stocking with furniture. So all of the furniture in those rooms, adds up. It's a lot of furniture, but they decide to demolish that row of rooms. So now all of that furniture ends up going into storage, ends up going someplace that we have to look after it. So that's a lot of inventory to manage. The other thing, if let's say in this carpentry shop, we order all this wood and we bring it down and we put it into our mill downs or our C trains, now we have to watch that wood. We have to make sure that it stays at a certain temperature. We have to maybe inventory it. We maybe have to count it. We have to make sure that there's enough for next season, right? So the more inventory that we have, the more we end up having to manage it, which can be really cumbersome. It's better that we produce just in time so that we don't produce a product until a customer demands it. We work at the pull of the customer. Now that will help us to reduce inventory so that we don't have to manage it in all of these different ways. Motion. Oh my gosh, anybody that's ever worked someplace with steps has experienced this waste. The motion, we did the spaghetti diagrams a few days ago. Motion is that movement of you walking all around. Now in the Antarctic, I gave that example of somebody walking 15 miles a day. So let's say that you had this carpenter that was working in the Antarctic. He's an apprentice, even though he has a ton of knowledge, and he has to go walk around the camp to get all the materials for people to go ahead and build what they need to build. All of that motion we are paying for. Do you want to pay people to walk around? No, you want to pay people to be focused on their work, to be adding value for your customers. So all that excess motion really starts to add up. Finally, excess processing. Excess processing to me is is most easily described as perfectionism. I have to make that perfect. I can't release it or do anything else until it is perfect. That is excess processing. So we want to reduce or eliminate that as much as possible. We only want to produce what the customer needs. If we go too far over that, that might be extra effort and time that we are putting into it. Now, you might think of this in the carpentry example. Let's say we're making that dresser again, and we make it so it has all these flourishes and beautiful pieces and like a design on it, right? All of that is not necessary for the person that's going to use the dresser. Now, if we were selling this, maybe that's something that could raise the price, and then we say that it's not excess processing. But otherwise, that's just money that we are spending to pay somebody to do something that's not going to add value for our customers. So downtime, think about, just grab a piece of paper. For those that have subscribed to the templates and tutorials, there is the template in there for the waist walk or the gimbal walk that you can use. But you can grab a piece of paper and just put downtime there, and just throughout the day, throughout this week, just note down any of those wastes that you see. This can be really transformative. And by doing this, you now have a list of opportunities for improvement that you can go after. It's really that simple to help you improve a little bit every single day. Now let's see, what are we going to talk about tomorrow? Tomorrow we have the Gantt chart, and we are going to give an example of a business, of a convenience store. So how would a convenience store use a Gantt chart, or why would they use a Gantt chart? This should be a fun thing to try to figure out. So I know over the weekend I've been bad sometimes about not making it on time. So I have some of those red marks there, but I'm hoping that tomorrow we will be able to have Improvement Roulette, and I will see you tomorrow. Only a few days left in April, and I'm just designing the training for next month. So we have some free workshops coming up next month. Make sure to subscribe to some of our groups, or to connect with me if you have any ideas for what you would like to learn, because I do want to make this as much as possible about you and making your journey easy, making it easy for you to improve your work, because I don't want you to have to work so hard.